I never thought I'd be scrubbing someone else's toilet at 72, my knees aching on the cold tile floor, just to earn my keep in my own son's home. But there I was, that rainy afternoon in October, when Sarah, my daughter-in-law, stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her voice sharp as a knife. "If you're going to stay here, Evelyn, you need to pull your weight. The house won't clean itself." Her words hit like a slap, echoing in the empty kitchen where I'd just baked apple pie from scratch, the scent of cinnamon still hanging in the air. My son, Michael, was right there, fiddling with his phone, not saying a word. Not defending me. That silence? It shattered something inside me, something I'd held together for decades. How did we get here? How did the woman who raised him become a burden? If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, stick with me. This is the story of how I finally stood up, reclaimed my life, and walked away from the betrayal that nearly broke me. Every morning started the same in their big suburban house in Seattle. I'd wake before dawn, the house still dark and quiet, the only sound the distant hum of the refrigerator. I'd shuffle to the kitchen in my worn slippers, the ones with the holes in the toes, and start the coffee brewing, strong, black, just how Michael liked it since he was a boy. Then came the chores, folding laundry that smelled of fabric softener and someone else's sweat, wiping counters sticky from last night's takeout, vacuuming carpets that trapped the faint scent of dog fur, even though they didn't have a pet. Outside, in the garden I'd helped plant years ago, I'd pull weeds under the gray Washington sky, my hands caked in damp earth, feeling the chill seep into my bones. Lunch was next, simple sandwiches or soup from cans I'd bought with my pension check. I'd set the table with care, placing napkins just so, hoping for a thank you that rarely came. Afternoons blurred into dusting shelves lined with photos of their vacations, smiles in Hawaii, laughter in Paris, places I'd never seen, paid for with money I'd loaned them without question. Evenings, I'd cook dinner, pot roast simmering, potatoes mashed smooth, the steam warming my face as I stirred. But more often than not, they'd eat in front of the TV, plates on laps, while I sat alone at the kitchen table, the clock ticking like a heartbeat in the silence. Oh, how those routines took me back to sweeter times. I remember when Michael was little, his chubby hands clutching my skirt as I baked cookies in our tiny apartment after his father left us. "Mama, can I help?" he'd ask, eyes wide with wonder. I worked 2 jobs then, waitressing by day, sewing alterations at night, my fingers raw from needles, just to keep a roof over our heads. When he graduated high school, I sold my mother's pearl necklace, the one with the delicate clasp that always caught on my sweater, to buy him his first car. "You'll go far, my boy," I whispered, handing him the keys. College came next. I dipped into savings meant for my retirement to cover his tuition, skipping my own doctor's visits to make ends meet. And when he met Sarah at that fancy job fair, I welcomed her like a daughter, hosting their engagement dinner in my modest home, the table groaning with homemade lasagna and garlic bread, the air thick with laughter and toasts. I even gave them the down payment for this very house, scraping together every penny from my widow's pension. "It's for your future," I said, hugging them both. Back then, their thank yous were warm, their calls frequent. "We love you, Mom," Michael would say. But love, I've learned, can fade like ink on old paper. It started small, the shift. Sarah's comments at first, "Evelyn, you really should update your wardrobe, it's embarrassing at family gatherings." I'd smile, swallow the hurt, thinking she meant well. But then Michael joined in, his voice casual but cutting. "Mom, maybe you could help out more around here since you're retired." Help out? I'd been helping since they moved in, but suddenly it wasn't enough. They began treating me like hired help, leaving lists on the fridge, clean bathrooms, grocery shop, walk the neighbor's dog for extra cash? Extra cash? As if my presence was a debt. One evening, after I'd spent hours ironing their clothes, the steam hissing like whispers, I overheard them in the living room. She's just taking up space, Sarah said, her tone icy. If she wants to stay, she earns it. Or we could sell the house and put her in a home. Michael murmured agreement, not a word in my defense. My heart cracked then, like that old china bowl I'd dropped once, shards scattering across the floor. The manipulation deepened, Sarah demanding I babysit their friends' kids for free, Michael borrowing money from my account without asking, promising repayment that never came. Tomorrow, Mom, he'd say. Tomorrow never came. Tomorrow never came. That night, after Sarah's demand to clean her house, like I was some servant in my own blood's home, I lay in the guest room, the bed sagging under me, staring at the ceiling fan spinning endlessly. The pain twisted in my chest, a mix of sorrow and rage I'd buried for too long. How had I become this shadow? Nostalgia flooded me, the warmth of past hugs, the sting of unreturned calls during my hip surgery last year, when they forgot to visit. Enough, a voice whispered inside. Not loud, but steady, like the ocean tide I'd loved as a girl. I was 72, not powerless. I'd sacrificed everything, it was time to take it back. The next morning, while they were at work, I acted quietly, my hands steady for the first time in months. I called my lawyer, the one who'd handled my husband's estate, and revised my will, removing Michael's name, leaving everything to charity and a distant niece who'd always checked on me. The papers rustled like dry leaves as I signed, a weight lifting. Then, I packed my suitcase, folding clothes with care, tucking in that old photo of Michael as a baby, his smile innocent. I changed the locks on my own small cottage downtown, the one I'd rented out to help them financially, using the key that symbolized my independence, cold metal in my palm. No dramatic scenes, just silent steps toward freedom. I canceled the automatic transfers from my bank, the ones they'd come to expect like air. By evening, my car was loaded, the engine humming softly as I drove away, rain pattering on the windshield like tears I no longer needed to shed. They noticed that night. The calls came first, frantic voicemails from Michael. Mom, where are you? The door's locked, what's going on? Then Sarah, this is ridiculous, Evelyn. You can't just leave, we need you here. They showed up at my cottage the next day, banging on the door, faces flushed. Open up! Michael shouted. I let them in, standing tall in my cozy living room, the scent of fresh tea brewing. What the hell, Mom? He demanded, eyes wild. You owe us an explanation. Sarah chimed in, voice dripping manipulation, after all we've done for you? Letting you stay? This is how you repay us? Repay them? The words hung like smoke. I looked at them calmly, my voice even, dignified. I've given enough. It's time you stand on your own. Michael blustered, but the money, the house, it's family. I shook my head. Family respects. Family doesn't demand. Sarah tried begging, please, Evelyn, think of the grandkids. But there were no grandkids yet, just another lie. Goodbye, I said simply, closing the door on their protests, the click of the lock final, empowering. Now, I sit on my porch, watching the sunrise paint the sky in pinks and golds, a mug of coffee warm in my hands. The garden blooms with flowers I planted for myself, roses unfurling like new beginnings. The empty chair beside me isn't lonely, it's space for peace. I've rediscovered joy in small things, reading by the window, the pages whispering secrets, walking by the sea, waves crashing with rhythmic justice. Karma, I've found, is quiet, it comes in the reclaiming of self. To anyone listening, remember this, your love is a gift, not a debt. Set boundaries like walls around a garden, let go of those who trample your blooms. Dignity isn't given, it's taken back. And in that taking, you find the strength you always had.